AOC's fans like to say she's living in our heads like Pharrell Williams singing Happy. But in fact, it's the policies that live in our heads, and they should live there because we know so many people who've been brutalized by such ideas. When you hear someone talk about socialism like it's a fun new way to pay down my college debt, you gotta scream. Just prepare to be called awful things for doing so. Today, pointing out the evil of the past makes you the bane of the present.
I do think she's very talented on social media and she's got a big following, but she's now a member of Congress as a Democrat, and there's certain rules as a Democrat that you have to play by. Now, she's just a freshman. She has to realize Pinocchios are for Donald Trump. She can't be so sloppy. She's getting fact-checked all the time by the Washington Post.
So let me get this straight. The Democratic Party, in all its infinite wisdom, is seriously floating Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as a potential presidential candidate in 2028. Like, seriously. Look, I know politics these days feels like a reality show produced by Netflix on a Red Bull binge, but even by those standards, this is next-level absurd. And before the AOC army storms the comment section wielding hashtags and moral superiority, just hear me out. Because if the future of the Democratic Party is AOC, we might as well hand the 2028 election to the Republicans on a silver platter and throw in dessert. Let's start with the obvious. AOC isn't some fresh-faced revolutionary. She's not bringing bold new ideas to the table. She's not a modern political Einstein. She's not even a dyed-in-the-wool Bernie Sanders supporter. She's repackaged socialism in an Instagram-friendly format. You know that old trick where you dust off an outdated VHS tape, throw a slick new label on it, and try to sell it as 4K? That's AOC's entire political brand.
AOC was on 60 Minutes last night. Quite a feat for a newcomer. Must be all her great new ideas.
People are going to have to start paying their fair share in taxes. Once you get to like the tippy tops, on your 10 millionth dollar, sometimes you see tax rates as high as 60 or 70%.
What an expression. Now, the real story isn't AOC's very old ideas. It's the media's gushy view of her. Even with her old ideas, she gets on 60 Minutes. The past is called the future, and you better love it.
It's not the future. It's more like Blockbuster trying to pass itself off as Netflix. She's not selling anything new. She's selling a throwback to an idea that already failed. It's like rebooting Cats and expecting it to win an Oscar. Spoiler alert, it didn't work the first time, and it's not going to work now. But here's where it gets even more over the top. The media, bless them, have basically turned into her personal PR team. A lot of legacy outlets talk about AOC like she's the political version of the iPhone. Sleek, game-changing, full of exciting new features. But in reality, it feels more like a flip phone with a shiny case. A little nostalgic, maybe even charming, but not exactly cutting edge. Just look at the coverage. She appears on 60 Minutes, and suddenly she's the voice of a whole generation. She posts one dramatic tweet, and now she's breaking barriers. She dances in a college video, and somehow she's silencing the haters. Come on, that wasn't real backlash. The only people talking about outrage were a few outlets trying to push a narrative against a crowd that wasn't even there. Most people on the right didn't care about that video at all. But sure, let's frame it like she's some fearless cultural icon just for dancing. And that's the point where Greg Gutfeld really went all in.
AOC's delightful dancing video from last week. The media created a fake story that conservatives attacked her over this delightful trifle. Not really. In fact, the only stories written about the dance were by liberals using it to falsely smear the right. So the press creates a shield around her in which any criticism must be due to racism or bigotry, when in fact it's in their heads and not ours.
Now, whether you like Greg Gutfeld or not, one thing's clear. The guy doesn't hold back. His critique of AOC wasn't just political commentary. It felt more like a deep breakdown. He cut through the hype and delivered his main point. AOC isn't ready for prime time. Honestly, you could argue she's not even ready for the next level yet. Here's the thing. Going viral doesn't mean you're actually viable. AOC might dominate Twitter threads, Instagram stories, and popular TikTok clips, but real leadership is a completely different game. There's a big gap between social media attention and actually running a country. She comes across as energetic and passionate, sure, like someone fresh out of college, full of ideas and big ambitions. But when it comes to leading a nation of over 330 million people, that's a whole different level of responsibility. And it's not something you can figure out on the fly.
AOC. What? She's kind of fun. in a, a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life.
And don't even get me started on the policy side. Because once you strip away the filters and the hashtags, what are you really left with? A set of ideas that critics argue have been around for decades are now being presented as something bold and new. Things like higher taxes on top earners, government-backed healthcare for everyone, and massive climate proposals like the Green New Deal. Supporters say these plans aim to tackle inequality and climate change through large-scale reforms and investment in clean energy and jobs. But critics see it very differently. To them, it feels like old policies being reheated and rebranded as visionary. They argue some of these proposals sound more ambitious than practical, raising big questions about cost, execution, and long-term impact. That's really the divide here. On one side, it's a sweeping, transformative agenda. On the other, it's seen as recycled ideas dressed up with modern messaging. And depending on where you stand, it either looks like the future or something we've already seen before.
But the strategy works by preventing real criticism about her actual beliefs, which are retreads of horrible ideas from previous centuries. Socialism with a smile, fascism among friends, Venezuela meets vegan.
Here's one issue that often comes up in discussions about AOC. Criticism of her ideas can sometimes provoke strong reactions. Some people perceive disagreement as personal or ideological attacks, which can make open debate feel tense. For example, questioning her facts or policy positions may lead to intense pushback from supporters, and the conversation can shift from the ideas themselves to arguments about intentions or tone. The challenge, then, is keeping the focus on the issues rather than personal labels, so that debates about policy remain constructive and grounded in facts.
Thing is, what if a woman had challenged her to a debate? So she's actually being
I think Candace Owens did.
Oh, really?
Now
there you go.
She has, like,
because
doubled the money.
So to answer your other question, she had to cloak her weak ideas in the armor of a smear, because she's learned as a leftist, the best thing you can do is smear somebody if you don't have an argument, and the smears actually work. Nobody wants to be called or racist.
And look, we're really just asking the same questions we'd ask any public figure pushing big reforms and trillion-dollar ideas. But somehow, those questions start to feel off limits. At that point, it doesn't feel like debate anymore, it feels like deflection. Less about politics, more like performance. The media coverage can come across as so protective that it's hard to challenge anything without immediate pushback. Disagree, and suddenly you're dismissed faster than a Netflix show with a low rating. It stops feeling like journalism and starts feeling like narrative control. Critics get shut down, while supporters celebrate every moment like it's a major breakthrough. And honestly, let's talk about the fan base for a second. Because sometimes, the most intense part of the whole thing isn't even AOC, it's the reaction around her. Some supporters treat every post like it's something profound, no questions asked. You could take an old political speech, put her name on it, and some people would still cheer like it's brand new.
AOC's fans like to say she's living in our heads like Pharrell Williams singing Happy. But in fact, it's the policies that live in our heads, because we know so many people who've been brutalized by such ideas. When you hear someone talk about socialism like it's a fun new way to pay down my college debt, you gotta scream. Just prepare to be called awful things for doing so. Today, pointing out the evil of the past makes you the bane of the present.
No questions asked. The moment you try to challenge her ideas or point out gaps, it can feel like you're instantly shut down. Ask for a real debate and suddenly the focus shifts to labels instead of the argument itself. At that point, it stops being about dialogue and starts feeling more like devotion. Less about exchanging ideas, more about defending a position no matter what. And when commentators like Ben Shapiro or Candace Owens publicly suggest a debate, critics argue those moments often don't turn into direct discussions. To them, it feels like missed opportunities for open conversation. Because at the end of the day, if ideas can't hold up under real scrutiny and back-and-forth discussion, people are naturally going to question how strong they really are. Passion matters, no doubt about it. But passion without solid facts and clear answers, that's not leadership. That's just noise without direction.
They gamed the system. They changed it.
And who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC?
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election. Trump won, okay? And I don't know if that's going to transfer. We should have won 4 more seats in the Senate. If you looked at the last 70 races for the Senate, 69 follow exactly the way.
I think it's Moore versus Youngkin. That's where I see it.
Youngkin would be excellent.
Youngkin
it's going to go back to
MAGA adjacent, and then Vance and Jr. will fight it out for that crowd.
You're AOC and Bernie, and who's at the top of the ticket?
They're going to lead right now.
Who's at the top of that ticket, Kevin? Because if it's not Bernie, he's going to be vice president and wait his turn?
No, it would be.
Even Bill Maher has weighed in, saying AOC could be an even bigger disaster than Kamala Harris. And let's be honest, surpassing that bar takes some effort. If AOC ever got the nomination, it wouldn't just be a loss, it'd be political suicide. Say what you want about Kamala, at least she gives the impression she understands the job. AOC? She comes across more like a TikTok activist dressed up as a congresswoman. Here's a serious question. When did performative outrage and social media clout become qualifications for running a superpower? We used to pick presidents based on leadership, experience, and an actual record of getting things done. Now it feels like, she's got a great engagement ratio on Instagram, let's hand her the nuclear codes. And this isn't just about AOC, it's part of a bigger trend in modern politics. Performance over policy, virtue signaling over vision, checking identity boxes over actual competence. The left in particular seems more focused on optics and diversity seminars than doing the hard, messy work of governing. Here's a PSA for the Democratic Party. Stop nominating people based on popularity points or how many boxes they tick. Start picking leaders who can actually lead.
All of her ideas are straight out of the socialist playbook. I do think she's very talented on social media and she's got a big following, but she's now a member of Congress as a Democrat, and there's certain rules as a Democrat that you have to play by. Now, she's just a freshman. She has to realize Pinocchios are for Donald Trump. She can't be so sloppy she's getting fact-checked all the time by the Washington Post.
The loudest voice isn't always the smartest one. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but she draws huge crowds. She's got momentum. Sure, that sounds impressive until you remember Kamala Harris had the same thing. Big crowds, media hype, a packed campaign war chest, and all the progressive buzzwords you could want. And how did that turn out? All show, very little substance. Let's not mistake online clout for real-world viability. Twitter likes don't win elections. Viral clips don't pass laws. Instagram followers can't balance a national budget. Enthusiasm alone isn't enough. Right now, AOC's whole platform feels like a last-minute college thesis, scribbled in one night, graded on a generous curve.
But people love AOC. People love Jasmine Crockett. People love Eric Swalwell and the like. And I think that the Democratic Party should put the people out there who the people want. They should put the politicians out there who the people want, who they're asking for, who are meeting the moment with the same energy that
they're not asking for AOC.
Yes, they are.
The people you party with
No. The people I party with don't like AOC.
Oh, please.
No, they don't at all.
Well, most people don't.
But
she's
AOC
very far left.
Look, nobody's saying she isn't smart or media savvy. AOC has charisma, presence, and a real talent for turning 280 characters into a cultural moment. But that doesn't mean she's ready to run the free world. We need adults in the room, people who understand how government actually works, not just how to rack up likes. If the Democrats really think AOC is their 2028 savior, they might want to start drafting their "We Tried" speeches now. And while we're at it, let's retire the idea that every critique of her is automatically or bigotry. That kind of deflection is killing honest debate. If your ideas can't survive scrutiny without leaning on identity politics, maybe they weren't that strong to begin with. Bottom line, AOC might rule the Twitter town square, but that doesn't make her fit for the Oval Office. Her ideas feel recycled, her facts are shaky, and her refusal to engage in real debates says a lot. Leadership isn't about being adored, it's about being accountable. If 2028 really is shaping up to be the year of AOC, the Democrats could be in for a reality check, even bigger than 2016. So here it is, loud and clear. The Emperor has no clothes, just a very stylish Instagram filter. Thanks for hanging out and watching. If you like this video, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below. I want to hear from you. Is AOC the future of the Democratic Party, or just a loud detour into Fantasyland? Let's get that conversation going. Until next time, stay smart, stay skeptical, and never confuse charisma with competence.